Well, we continue to get reaction on the VBS Mutual Bank scandal. The Standing Committee on Finance saying today the Hawks and the NPA must act swiftly and decisively against those implicated. The committee wants a progress update. For more on this, we are joined by the Standing Committee on Finance's chairperson, Yunus Carrim. Good evening, Mr. Carrim. Thanks very much for your time. Perhaps I should go straight to asking you whether you have faith and confidence in those two institutions' ability to actually move as swiftly and as decisively as you would want them to do.
Well, good evening to you and the viewers. Obviously, the parliamentary committees in general, presumably also the police committee, has severe reservations about the capacity of the Hawks and the NPA to proceed effectively on this matter. It's quite common knowledge that the Hawks are bereft of skills, forensic and auditing skills and so on, and the NPA is also challenged. So there's nothing we're saying that is not common cause, if you like. But in this case, it seems to us that the forensic report that Advocate Terry Motau has processed on behalf of the SARB, the Reserve Bank, is quite meticulous. We haven't seen the annexes, as you know. They'll be released at a later stage. And so the work of the Hawks and the NPA has been made substantially easier. And of course, the matter has already been turned over to them by the Reserve Bank, the Prudential Authority in particular within the Reserve Bank. So we're hopeful that given the work that's already been done, it'll be easier to process this matter than other similar matters.
Well, I want to ask you two questions on what you've just said. The first one is, I mean, if you believe that they have, if you have severe reservations, as you have said, about both the NPA and the Hawks, how do you, why do you think that them reporting to you on progress will then address the concerns that you have?
Well, presumably they will report to us accurately on the overall progress. I don't think the parliamentary committees are entitled to ask about specific cases and specific individuals. That would be undermine their rights in a court of law, and also it will be interfering in the internal investigations and seeking to preempt the outcomes of these investigations. That we can't do. But we can ask them about where they are overall in respect of progress, when they're likely to proceed against individuals and the like. And as I said, because of the nature of this report, it's done by forensic accountants and other experts, and they've been able to do this, let me stress, because of the coming into effect on the 1st of April this year of the Financial Sector Regulation Act, which has substantially enhanced the powers that investigators can have in situations like this, and they have search and seizure powers, and they have the right to subpoena witnesses and secure information. That means that the investigation is reasonably thorough, and that is why I think the prospects are better in this case for both the Hawks and NPA to proceed.
Well, you also said in your opening statements that you're happy with the meticulous way in which this report has been compiled, but you already have some of the people who have been accused or implicated saying they were never contacted to either answer questions or put their side of the story. In other words, suggesting that the report isn't perhaps as meticulous as it could have been or was supposed to be.
See, I think it's separate. You need to separate fairness and the detailed nature of the report. Now, obviously, it's when the annexures are released that we'll have a better sense of just how well they've done the technical side. What you're raising is about fairness, and that's quite legitimate, where people who have been accused of wrongdoing been given a chance to be heard. And this is not a commission of inquiry, as I understand it. They've acted within the new Financial Sector Regulation Act, as I said, and those who feel that they've been wrongly accused have already expressed in the public domain that they're going to take the matter up in court, and that is certainly their right, and we sincerely hope that the SARB and the Advocate Tao and the team of workmen's attorneys will be able to deal with that matter. I understand that they've got a substantial amount of evidence. I understand that they have a right anyway to access emails, various forms of other communications, including SMSs, WhatsApp messages, and other forms of communication. And they are very decisive in what they propose. Concerted action against those who are accused of wrongdoing. And I don't think they would have said that unless they have a reasonable case. But you're right to say that they should have heard everybody. And I'm not sure that's required in terms of the Financial Sector Regulation Act, but in terms of natural justice, yes. And those who feel that they've been unfairly impugned by this process should take to the court of law and whatever other process is available to them to correct the situation.
Now, you've also expressed concern that innocent employees of VBS who are not part of the plunder have lost their jobs. And further down, you also say, you're also expressing concern at the greater powers that, depositors and policyholders have compared to other sections or other people who are in the same category. And this on the back of certain political parties, for example, that are saying, here's a black bank being allowed to fail. Do you have any thoughts on those issues?
Presumably you're referring to the statement the committee issued today.
Yes.
And we're decisively clear. We say there, if I recall, that until we are convinced otherwise, we are very clear that the VBS Mutual Bank should be rescued under a new effective leadership. I think we also say there that it's a severe setback, the collapse of this bank, for transformation and diversification of the financial sector, which, as you know, is dominated by 4, possibly 5 of the big banks. We had major public hearings last year over several occasions and produced a 131-page report on the need for financial sector transformation, which report is being processed by Treasury and NEDLAC in anticipation of the forthcoming Financial Sector Summit. We're very clear there that we would like banks to be treated differently depending on their size and their role, while bearing in mind that whatever leeway is given to smaller banks to become bigger over time gradually should not be at the expense of depositors and policyholders in the case of other financial institutions. In respect of the powers provided in the Financial Sector Regulation Act, what we in fact say is exactly that. One, that we are welcoming the use of those powers, because what usually happens when financial institutions collapse is that it's disproportionately the poor and the lower income earners who lose out most. And we're also saying that, again, look, there are many people there, presumably, the 126, I gather it's been brought down to 94 now, people who are about to lose their jobs, who have had nothing to do with this outrageous plunder of VBS, and yet they are bearing the consequences. So, of course, it's not in our power to do so. We're merely requesting other banks, if they have vacancies, to prioritize consideration of these people who are now losing their jobs at VBS, who have some experience at least, to be employed in those vacancies. In short, of course we're concerned about losses of jobs, especially when people are innocent victims, as is the case now. In fact, my own view is more than bad. What has happened here is terribly sad. It's a severe setback for financial sector transformation, but we need to learn the lessons from it. And we think that the powers that be, government, the Reserve Bank and others, and this is what we will raise with them on the 7th of November when we sit with all of them, we feel they should seriously consider rescuing this bank. It's too important a bank to fail in the sense of its possible role in the future and its role until now.
So government should consider pumping money into that rescue effort if, as you put it, there is a new effective leadership available.
Yes. We think that the amount that's required here is relatively small compared to what has been pumped, if you like, into the African Bank and so on. But we would like to hear from National Treasury, the Reserve Bank and other stakeholders on the 7th of November, their response to our view that the bank should be rescued if at all possible. And we're also saying in the committee this morning that we feel that some sort of inquiry needs to take place to review what happened over this matter. Did the regulators in some way fail to perform their role? Now, we're making no accusations. We're simply saying that we all need to learn the lessons. National Treasury, government as a whole, the Reserve Bank, the New Prudential Authority, the Conduct Authority even, and so on, all these regulatory bodies, we all need to learn the lessons from what's happened in VBS Mutual. We're asking, could they, the entities are referred to, as well as the South African Local Government Association and its provincial structure in Limpopo, could they, could the Ministry and Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, could they all have acted sooner so as to reduce the prospects of the bank collapsing and at least reduce the extent of its failure? We also have to ask ourselves, did we as a parliamentary committee fail in our oversight role? Now, in saying all of this, we're acutely aware that the Reserve Bank goes by the auditor's reports and the monthly data returns that come via the CFO. And we think it's outrageous, by the way, that yet again, it's KPMG that's at issue. They are serial transgressors, allegedly, and they must face the music. Now, we have engaged with the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors, Mr. Bernard Agallis, the CEO, yesterday, to ask, where are you in the process of your investigation in regard to KPMG? And he said that they're expediting it, and in fact, the report released last week assists them in many respects. We're also saying to the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants that have some power to de-recognize chartered accountants who perform wrongly or found to have done something wrong, to consider a de-recognition if it's appropriate. All these people must be given the chance to be heard. And when people say we want a black bank to fail, I'm not sure who they're referring to, because our committee, from day one, and we've had already 2 sittings over the last 4 months or so in respect of the VBS Mutual matter, our committee, I think, across all parties, has consistently held the view, which we repeated today, that VBS Mutual Bank should be rescued, but those who have committed wrong, allegedly, should face the full might of the law.
Can I ask you to quickly
quickly answer? Black bank, why would we?
Can I ask you to quickly answer the very questions that you posed? Do you believe, as Yunus Carrim, whether the regulators and you as legislators actually failed this bank in some way?
At this stage, there's no obvious evidence in that regard. You know, as I said, the bank has to go by the information it gets. But what the current new Minister of Finance said, as you might have gathered yesterday before our committee, he's the previous governor of the Reserve Bank, he said that at some stage, when he was the governor, they used to have inspectors calling on the banks to monitor more actively what's going on. And he seemed to imply that some consideration needs to be given to that happening again. I don't know whether the Reserve Bank has got the resources. That's something we'll raise with them on the 7th. So at this stage, we don't have the evidence. But in any case, what is the harm in carrying out an inquiry that may reveal whether we did the right thing or not in respect of the regulators, and could Parliament have done more than we have done? We need to learn the lessons. We need to avoid this happening. It's a severe setback, as I've repeatedly said, and we cannot allow this to happen, not to a black bank, not in the context of the need for quite dramatic transformation in the financial sector. Long overdue transformation. So for us as a committee, based on our hearings last year and our report, this is obviously quite a severe setback.
Mr. Yunus Carrim, thanks very much for your time this evening. He is the chairperson of
Thank you indeed.
Parliament's Standing Committee on Finance. Now,